my fellow comic book collectors. Today is another one of my interview series, and it's one where I'm doing it in person, live. Well, not live, but live-ish, like pre-recorded. This is one of the last times that I'm going to be in this comic room, and I'm kind of have a very cool ending to this comic room in a way, because I'm going to be interviewing Streyflexin.
Hey guys.
Yaniv is his real name. This is a really, he's got some crazy books. Go to his Instagram and you'll just see like crazy book after crazy book. That just makes my collection look really, really pathetic. And it always makes me cry looking at his books because I'm so jealous.
Don't say that.
He's got some amazing stuff. And he just, all this time, like we were sort of connected on Instagram, and all this time, we didn't realize that we live actually really close,
so close to each other. I know. What are the odds? You think you just assume everyone's so far, right?
And the funny thing is, once we found out that we were living close to each other, we're both moving.
Yeah.
He's moving to Dallas, and I'm moving to Ottawa. So it's kind of funny that this is the one chance that we get to meet.
I know.
So it's
at least we got this chance.
Yeah, it's good. It was really cool to meet somebody. You never know, like when you're meeting these people, where they're from.
Right.
It's
they could be your neighbor even.
Yeah. The guy lives next door to you, and it's like, oh wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just really cool to have him here, and I'm gonna let him tell a little bit about himself, show some amazing books. Like he brought some stuff that I've never seen. So this is going to be awesome. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I love watching a lot of your interviews, and it's cool to be here in person and see the whole collection here. It's quite an amazing setup. Even like in between your move, it still looks incredible. So
my room's a bit of a mess, but
I can't wait to see what you do when you set up the new place. So that'll be exciting.
I haven't figured that out yet. But so how did you get into collecting comics? You're pretty young to have the books that you have.
Yeah, so I'm 26 years old. I've always been into superheroes, and because of the movies and the video games, it's always something I grew up with. And I've always, I love to read comics as a kid. And as I started kind of getting older at the end of my high school years, I was like, I wonder if I can kind of collect some of the older books that I remembered as a kid. And then as I started getting into it more, I realized like, oh wow, like there's a whole market for this stuff. You can collect it, you can invest it, you could buy, sell, trade. And I thought it was so fascinating. I went to a garage sale locally here in the area, and I found a whole box of comics for $80. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. There's so many awesome issues.
Good way to start. Yeah,
exactly. So I had a whole thing to start with, and I started trading some and selling some off, and then just kind of upgrading from there.
Wow.
And it just kept building and building. And as my love for comics grew, and the covers and the art, I started getting more into it and researching the artists more. And that's when I found about the Golden Age. And then since then, it's just been
it's pretty much. If you look at his Instagram, it's mostly Golden Age now. Like,
that's mostly what I.
He's wearing a Venom shirt. Like I was making fun of him.
It's so backwards.
It's so funny.
And then I bring all these crazy Golden Age books.
The Golden Age he shows is it's going to be insane.
I love it because it's stuff that not everyone sees every day. I still love all the 80s and 90s stuff.
Oh yeah, me too.
Bronze and silver, as everyone does. But some of the older stuff is just more unique and just kind of special to. Yeah. But they still survived, a lot of them, right? So
yeah. It's pretty cool. So what was your first kind of Grailish book? Like
my first Grail. I don't know. I'll be honest. You might laugh, but the first big book that I wanted was New Mutants '98.
Oh yeah. I love that book. I have it right over there. So
that was like the first one that I really wanted, and I was like,
me too.
It's really cool. Then when I got that, I'm like, okay, what's next? And then I just kind of kept checking off boxes, but. Really Spider-Man, because I really connected with Spider-Man well. So AF-15 and Spider-Man 1 were the first ones for me.
Did you ever do this? Like, for me, I was like, if I get this book, I'm done.
Yeah,
And then you go on to the next book.
Yes, I feel like as collectors, we always say that, but it's never, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And, even when you have everything you want, it's like, maybe I could upgrade. There's original art. There's so many different facets to collecting, which I like because it gives it, it's bad for your wallet, but it's just good to always find something to chase, have some goals, keeps you motivated, right?
It really does. Yeah.
I like that aspect of it, so it's cool.
Yeah, so that's cool. So like how are you like as being a younger guy?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to put you down.
No, it's okay.
It's not ageism or something crazy.
No, it's okay. I'm used to it.
How did you get into these bigger books? Like the stuff he's going to show. Like, be patient. He's going to show some big books. How did you get to find those books?
Yeah,
and how did you get to be able to afford those books?
Right. So I get asked that question a lot, and I actually, not to popular belief of people just assume that I'm rich just because I post a lot of big books. It took a lot of work kind of getting into them, but I feel like if you spend a lot of time and effort, and I spent all my time and money on comics, like even during high school, university, I didn't buy clothes, I didn't go party, I didn't drink, like literally every penny I had,
that was
I
like
put
me
into
in the
comics.
90s. That's what I did in the 90s.
And you see it pays off after, you know. Obviously it does get expensive, but if you focus on that, and I think a big part of it is selling. You have to trade up, because you know, if I just spent, like, if I was just buying comics and I didn't sell anything, I wouldn't be where I am today, because I wouldn't be able to turn some comics into others, right? So
yeah, that was my big problem. I could never sell. I really hated selling, because then I'd feel like, oh,
I know you're letting go of a piece of your collection. I think obviously if you don't have to sell and there's no reason to sell, the best thing to do is to keep the books. But I mean, if you want to grow a collection and start kind of experiencing other books and just start to really expand, it's a good way to kind of help the hobby fund itself, right? I did a lot of that, and then, like I said, just spending a lot of time on the CGC boards, on the eBay, on the auction sites, finding deals and trading up. And
there's some amazing stuff. Like, do you get a lot of stuff from Instagram, for example?
Instagram's great. Instagram's been probably the biggest
stuff you find on Instagram. It's like I only got on Instagram like maybe last year, like middle of last year. So like I was like really late to the game. And then I found so much stuff there. I was like,
it's incredible.
Oh, man,
it's a whole new world, right?
Yeah. Like I always thought of Instagram as something more for celebrities, you know, like something different, like not comics.
Yeah, not collector focused, but I mean, it really works. So you can share your books. You got the message chat, so you can message people. And it's such a great platform. It was the first big platform that kind of helped me get started. And I was one of like the earlier people on Instagram, and now it's like full of comic guys. Because back then, you know, having like an AF-15 on Instagram was amazing. There's maybe like 100, 200 people. Now it's like everyone has one.
Everybody has one.
Not to discredit AF-15. I love the book. But it's different how it's changed, right? So the perception of you know, collectors and what people like has changed. And I think it's really helped with the Golden Age stuff, especially. It's got really, the covers got the exposure that they needed.
One thing I found on Instagram, there's actually dealers like Elite Comics and stuff like that, where they will have just Golden Age auctions, which is really cool.
It's exciting, because
and Harim is another one.
Harim's great, and TFTV, Ramon. There's tons of people.
Really great stuff.
They just focus on Golden Age, and I feel like back then when I first joined Instagram, like 2017, 2018, it might even been before that. It might have been 2016. Like there wasn't that much Golden Age, so there's maybe like a few handful of Golden Age collectors. And I just feel like the more you kind of get into the hobby, the more you progress. The natural progression of a collector is they start off with what they remember from their childhood. It could be copper, it could be bronze, and then they get into silver, and then slowly gold, and then sometimes art.
Gold is like very tempting, isn't it?
It is, especially now you could see all the beautiful covers that that, like, you know, back in the day you needed the Gerber guys to see them, right? So now like everyone's posting, I don't know, like a Chamber 19, and it's like, wow, that cover is amazing. That's so cool. Like, I want to collect that, and then they put that on their want list, whereas they might not have found gold that quickly without Instagram, without showing off those beautiful covers. So I think that really,
there's good things and bad things about it anyway. Because like once people see some awesome cover that was sort of under the radar, like if you look at the old like Overstreet guides, it would be like numbers 1 through 5, certain price, 1 through 6 through 10.
They wouldn't have every
But then you see like 6 is like, wow, that's a crazy cover. It's like really, and then the prices, once people see those covers, have kind of gone a little through the roof.
They've gone up a lot. I think they said, like, Suspense 3, that famous Chambre cover,
that just went up on Comic Connect or
Heritage.
Heritage has one. I forget where I saw it. I knew it was
it's up on auction, and I think they were saying that back in the day, like the reason why it gained so much popularity is because it was focused on the Gerber guy. It was on the cover, I think. And people finally got to see the cover, and they're like, "What the hell is that?" Like, I didn't know that existed.
It's totally cool,
right? And it's like, oh, I got to find that, and then it became a desirable key. And I still feel like, even today, you know, most covers have been kind of discovered, or the cool covers have finally been appreciated, but there's still some Golden Age books.
There's a lot out there.
That, you know, they're still really good bang for your buck, and they look great, and you know, they don't cost an arm and a leg.
If you watch my channel, I go for a lot of those really obscure ones that, you know, still really cheap. Because I'm cheap.
Oh, that's okay. You know, as collectors, we have to be, because we got to collect all this stuff. So
So
I get it.
I go for those obscure stuff that people haven't quite gravitated to yet. Actually, you know what's funny with Suspense 3? I told you how I got a print, like a custom print shirt. I was gonna get that one on for the custom print.
Oh, really?
I was thinking,
yeah. What if somebody catches you out in public?
Yeah, it's sort of like it's one of those covers. It's like it's a kind of a Nazi sacrifice
KKK on it. Yeah, it's pretty intense.
Yeah, it's pretty intense cover.
It's an intense cover for sure. Controversial. You could say.
So I was thinking, if I walk around with that, what kind of reaction would I get for people that don't know what it is?
That they don't understand it. Obviously, to us, we understand its history, and it's against them. It's not promoting it, but for someone on the street, they might not understand.
I posted some.
Freak out.
It's so funny. I posted some like anti-Nazi cover on my thing, and they're like, they got all offended. They started flaming.
Oh, really?
Me.
Oh my gosh.
Like, it's so silly,
it's just, it's unfortunately where the world is today.
Yeah,
even on Instagram, you have to be careful too, like what
you
you post and what words you use, and I think context is really important, right?
Yeah, me too.
We're proud, we're proud to be either American or Canadian. Like we're proud of our history that we were on the right side of the war.
Yeah.
So it's just like context is really important, and the fact that you're not promoting anything bad or violent. Like we would never want to do that.
Yeah.
We're just showing the history, and a lot of the covers, obviously, they were a product of its time, right? So there's a lot of controversial subjects. So.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of controversial subjects, how we show the bit of a controversial book that you have.
The best comics one. So
let's show some of the books. We're going to show some really cool books.
Here's a really interesting one. So this is Best Comics #1. It's from 1939. It's actually the first Better Comics /Needor kind of start, the Startlings and Exciting Comics, that whole publisher. It started off with this book. And it's kind of weird book in the sense that it's not a general comic on that side. It's like a kind of a horizontal book, and even the back cover is also horizontal here.
Oh wow!
As you can see, but the significance of this book here is that it's the first appearance of an African superhero. As you can see here, it's the Red Mask. And what's interesting enough is 4 issues, and I think in the later issues they actually made him a lighter skin tone, but at least they tried.
They tried.
And it's just an important piece of kind of comic history that predates all Negro and some of the other black superheroes.
So the one I always thought was the first African American or black, I always say black, I prefer black, was in Crown Comics. With Matt Baker's Vuda.
Which he himself was an African American artist.
Yeah, a great artist. So I always thought that was the first one. I heard of Red Mask, believe it or not, but I didn't realize that he was first.
Yeah, because I believe that is later in the 40s, right? That book came out in the 40s.
I think it's like 40, I want to say 45, 46 range.
Yeah, around the mid-40s.
Yeah.
So, that's why this one was kind of interesting. And this one's a weird, like, just in general, its actual copy is kind of weird. So it looks like it was in a PGX case, but I'm not even sure if PGX actually made the whole case, so they just put it in this thing.
It's a weird holder.
It is. I'm so tempted to just crack it. But
it's almost worth cracking.
It is just
like CGC or something.
Yeah, just to check it out. But when they do grade these, if they do, it's like it is kind of awkward. It's in a magazine slab and it's horizontal, but it's nevertheless it's a very interesting book and piece of history. And for 1939, it's really progressive. So it's super early.
No.
Where unfortunately,
actually, I really like the cover.
Yeah, it's a great cover. I mean, a lot of the times, like African Americans were depicted as kind of like the comedical character,
a little bit goofy looking.
Yeah, and that was just part of the times. But to show them as a superhero is really progressive.
And he's doing like a really awesome thing. He's
it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's not a bad cover actually.
Yeah, it's a really great cover.
It's really really nice. So that was kind of an interesting book here. Show off some more. Some
whatever
books.
Yeah, whatever books.
Yeah, I picked this up yesterday. So this is Superman #2. So obviously, as you guys know who Superman is, this is the second issue. I think it's also the second ever, I guess, comic and, superhero in his own comic too, because the first was Superman 1. And then this is still 1939. And then most of the other ones came out, like, 40s, Batman 1 was in the 40, Cap 1 was in 41, and Flash 1 and all those. So it's still very, very early. I actually love this cover a lot. It's a beautiful cover.
It's very simple, but it's quite nice. Actually.
So the early classic Golden Age. A lot of the Supermans were like that.
Personally, whenever I see Superman on a yellow background, I like it.
Yeah,
it's
he pops a bit more. Just, Just the way that the colors interact with each other. So
it's a very simple looking book too. Like
it is.
The cover is much simpler than like some of the later stuff.
Yeah, it is. And I actually kind of like at first when I got into it, I'm like, oh no, I loved all the busy covers, and I still do, but. After a while, I'm like, you know what? I really like this. It's just simple, classic, pose that anyone can see, and they know immediately what it is from far. So it's really cool.
Nice.
This one has been a grail book of mine for many years that I've been wanting to get.
Yeah.
And I got it from my friend Andrew over there, who's like too scared to come on camera.
One other guy that's hiding in the background.
He's hiding there.
That also came, but we're showing him how great these interviews can be, and we're trying to tempt him to come on camera, but
he's a bit camera shy.
But he's camera shy.
But it's okay. I brought the book here. So this is Marvel Mystery number 9. This is like probably the most famous Schomburg cover from the run.
Yeah.
It's probably the most expensive one too, the hardest one to get. And it's always, the funny thing about this book, it's always been like a very keen, expensive book.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas if you look at some of the other ones, they've really shot up over the last few years, but this one's been really tough to get.
Well, it's super rare. Like I think less than 10 or
there's not many. Yeah,
it's definitely like, I know it's a low number.
It's definitely a low census number. I'll show you some interesting stuff about the cover here. Like on the wings, they actually made a mistake, and the colorist didn't color the wings white. It's skin tone color.
Oh, skin tone.
Yeah, so
he blended them in.
Yeah, he did. But I just love everything about this cover. The way that the steel kind of gets crushed.
For some reason, I always gravitated to this steel beam. Something about it.
It's just the rivets and the way that it twists. And then you got the cops on the bike here, and then the train falling, and then the cop car. And this is one that is tough to get in general, and it's tough to get, especially with good colors and the colors that you want.
Mm-hmm.
So this one has a nice light green on the train and the car, which is kind of tough to get. And just overall, I've been a huge Schomburg fan, as you probably know.
Yeah,
a lot of people are.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome. Yeah.
He is. And this is one of them that I never thought I'd own, because it's just so expensive and hard to find.
I actually really like the way Submariner is displayed on it. Like usually like Submariner in the Golden Age always has this like triangular head.
Yeah, he has the goofy it's a big pizza.
This he looks a little bit more normal.
Yeah, because this is done by Schomburg. Some of those other ones they were done by other artists, and not to discredit them, but they had a little bit of fun with the character.
I always thought it was quirky and cute.
Yeah, they're goofy, but this one is a powerful image for sure.
Yeah.
So that was a really cool one to get, and that was my biggest pickup. So that's
beautiful.
Exciting.
Beautiful.
Here's just another fun book here. All Winners number 1.
Yeah, these are books you don't see often, by the way.
Yeah, these are. It seems like they're common. I'm just pulling them out, but these can take years to obviously find.
Personally, I've never seen any of these books in person. Just like
and you've owned like so many of them.
And I own a lot of crazy books, but these books are beyond
cool.
crazy.
It's got the clear board on the back, so
I like that.
You can actually see the back cover, which is kind of neat. So yeah. So this is a restored copy, and a lot of people that are kind of getting into Golden Age are used to silver and bronze, I don't want to collect restored. Once you get into the Golden Age, you'll understand you collect what you can get, because a lot of times
if you look at the census for a lot of these books,
half of them are,
half 40%.
It could be half. So some are even more than half that are restored.
Especially some of the bigger books.
It's very common that they're restored, and it saves you money.
Well, it used to be the case,
right?
That if you got a big book, you'd get it professionally restored.
Right.
And then CGC came out, and then it totally messed up the whole system.
Yeah, because then there's the whole purple label of death and all that. But I think now people are finally realizing they give appreciation to the restored, bigger Golden Age books.
Well, and a lot of the time, the restoration, it's not really restoration.
It depends
it's
what it
more
is.
about maintaining the book even.
Right. So it could be conservation, and it depends what it is, because trimming is a lot different than a little bit of pen on the spine, or a piece added is different than some glue or some tape.
Exactly.
And some of this stuff can be removed as well. So depends if the whole book is recreated or if it's just a part of the cover that has some work done on it. Who cares?
Exactly.
It's like if that whole piece was missing, you'd pay more for it than that piece being added. So you just got to take it. You got to put it in perspective.
When they do the thing where they do a tear seal, or kind of or when they say pieces added, really all they mean is sometimes the piece got chopped off for whatever reason, and then that piece was put back.
They could add it back with tape
with tape
or glue or something. So you just, I think when you're into the Golden Age, a lot of times, it's really, the book is more important than the label or the grade. Go for what you can get, go for what you can afford. They get really expensive, obviously, in the higher grades, and obviously high blue label. Even just for Golden Age, we get a 1.0 blue label of anything. It's it's pretty good actually for some of the books. So just go with what you can collect, what you're happy with. Sometimes covers just pop up, and they look good alone. You could kind of frame them up.
Exactly.
Maybe wait to find a cover
list. Look at
this
this cover. This is I love this cover. All the superheroes together. It's quite great.
So it's pretty sweet, yeah.
And then, so are something like this, are you going to get it sent off to CGC later?
Yeah, so it really depends. This one, it's a pretty raw book. I mean, it's probably best to get it graded because it's a nice shape. I already know it's restored, so I kind of know what it has.
Yeah,
but
to me it looks like a 5, 6 range.
Looks like a solid mid-grade. Mid-grade, and it presents really well.
Yeah.
Some of them I like to open and read and flip through.
Just because it's cool.
Yeah, some of the more expensive ones, like even though I want to crack them, they're kind of expensive, so I'll leave them in the holders.
Yeah, it's like I always get a little bit paranoid, like if I bend it the wrong way.
Right.
Yeah, it's like.
But that's why collecting low grade and restored, it's like what can you do to it? You're not gonna damage. It's not a 9.8 blue that you're gonna damage. So I think if you're conscientious about what you kind of go through, it's okay, and that's the good thing about restored.
Pretty great. This next book is insane. Okay, first time seeing this in person, and it's it's just some random number one that nobody ever cares.
I don't know if the superhero ever made it, it's Captain America. Yeah. So this is a special book.
It has a bit of a flaw, like the shield is done wrong.
Yeah, I know. I think we got to send this back. I can actually. Do you know the story about the shield?
No.
No? Okay, I'll tell it. So this is obviously Captain America #1. So first appearance of Captain America, awesome Bucky, and Red Skull. Yeah. First time Hitler was ever on a comic book cover, which...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought he was earlier.
He was the earliest one that he's been in the comics before, but this is the first time he's on the cover. And what a powerful cover at that. I mean, he's getting socked right in the face.
And he's like, not only getting socked, but he's like going he's like lunging back.
He's like flying back. Oh, it's beautiful. They got the whole Nazi plans here to blow up the U.S. munitions work. The colors, like, this cover has always struck out to me as a kid. Like,
so the key thing is that it's Hitler's first cover appearance.
That's one of the key things that people, that's exactly it. And obviously Bucky, because people care about Bucky a lot. Yeah, the bondage
this
Bucky.
character never got anywhere.
No, this guy, who cares about him? But about the shield, what's interesting about it is that you could see here it's a tri-point shield. Mm-hmm. It's like considered the Golden Age shield. It only appeared for one issue. Yeah. It was also in the beginning of the first Captain America movie, the first Avenger, so that was kind of cool.
Oh yeah, that's right. They did that.
They switched it over to the round vibranium shield, exactly. But why they changed it is, I don't know if you have any MOJ books here, but the character of the Shield.
Yeah.
So he has
the same shield.
It's like his uniform is like this same shield. It's literally almost exactly the same, and he's a patriotic superhero too.
It's a red costume, I believe.
Yeah, and then he's got the shield right on his chest. Yeah, and it's the same shield pretty much. It looks exactly the same. Patriotic superhero that predated Captain America, and they threatened to sue, so they had to change the shield. And then they changed it to the round iconic shield that we know of today. So
it's very cool, very cool.
Nice little interesting fact that how the shield kind of played a.
And what's really cool about this book, it's white pages.
Yeah,
like how often do you see white pages?
It's pretty. It's super clean. The colors look really great. Yeah. So it's got it's got some color touch and spine splits and reinforced. So most of the work is on the spine.
The funny thing is it's all on the back too.
Yeah, a lot of it's on the back. So
even if you removed it would still present really well.
Yeah, it would still present really well because all this whole part here is original too. And that's the thing, like you have to know what you're buying when you're buying restored. Yeah. Because I've seen restored books where half of the book is recreated and then you kind of lose some of it. Whereas this, it's a really beautiful copy. So
amazing.
Buy the book, not the label. That's always
that's true.
That's always like the same.
Very true.
And then, last but not least,
this is not his book though.
No,
the guy that's hiding. It's his book. So
I helped him get it.
Yeah. But this next book, to me, this is the biggest book I've ever seen. Yeah. It's one that I would say is like kind of like the Holy Grail, because it's a book that you just never see. It's never, ever. This is probably the only time you'll see this book kind of live.
It might be the only time on YouTube at all. Like, Even on Instagram, when my friend posted it recently, it might be the only one. It's really, it's really a tough book. It's an old school book. There's a specific amount that are out there that can't be found anymore because of the circumstances, which we'll explain.
So
it's quite interesting.
Show this book.
I'll show the book
too
here.
Awesome.
So this is Motion Pictures Weekly, Funnies Weekly. It's kind of a mouthful.
I always mess up the name on this one.
MPFW, number one. So this, for those who don't know, I'll show the label because you might not even believe me when I tell some people. It's actually the first appearance of the Samaritan. And you're like, what? What do you mean the first Samaritan? It's Marvel 1, right?
Everyone thinks Marvel 1, but this came out before Marvel 1.
Months before. There's proof. And the story behind this book goes is that this is a theater giveaway. So it's supposed to be given away at a theater. And what I heard online, whether it's true or not, we'll find out. But I guess we actually might never know. But apparently there was a movie that was supposed to come out called The Lost Atlantis. And they commissioned Funnies Inc., which was kind of like before Marvel.
Yeah.
And they commissioned them to do a story on like this movie that came out to do some giveaway comics. So Everett created this character called the Submariner.
Just to fit for that movie.
So it was an 8-page black and white story that was in this book that was supposed to be given away. It was never given away. And they ended up reusing that for Marvel 1. And then for Marvel 1, they added 4 more pages. So in the end of this one, there's a little square at the last comic box of the Submariner story. It says like to be continued in the next issue. And they tipped that out in Marvel 1 and they added 4 more pages. So that's kind of one of the other proofs that this came out.
This came out
before,
first.
Yeah. And so the guy, so they never distributed it. The guy who owned the estate, the theater died. And then in his estate, copies came up. Yeah. So there's different.
That's the story that I heard, actually.
Yeah. So there's different information online, whether it's 7 or 8 or 9 copies that exist, but it's.
I heard like something like 5.
Yeah, some say even 5 or 6. It's very, very few. I've seen one coverless and one incomplete, so then that narrows down a complete one even more.
Even more, yeah.
And what's interesting is that they were only found at that estate sale, and you won't be able to find anywhere else. So the copies that came out of that estate sale are the only copies that are out there in the world.
Yeah.
Whereas any other book, even something as great as a Captain America 1 or Action 1, it was found in a wall one time. Like, they're out there. They could be in a collection. They could be in a basement.
And they were heavily printed at the time.
They were. Marvel
This was not heavily printed.
No, I mean, there's only the few copies that are out there, so imagine what survived.
Yeah.
Like Marvel 1, for instance, the first printing, the October, they made 80,000.
Yeah.
And then they made 800,000 of the November.
So, that's the other thing with Captain. So is this the November or is this?
No, this is the Cap 1. So that was only for Marvel 1. But this one,
Marvel 1,
they printed
I knew that with
copies.
Marvel 1. I watched what's her name? The girl that has it.
Nerdy Girl.
Nerdy Girl.
Yeah, Nerdy Girl has one.
Yeah, she was talking about how there's like
the two different printings. And so what's interesting about that book is that October was just 80,000 just locally, so like Philly, New York, New Jersey type of area.
Yeah.
And then it was successful. It sold out completely. That they ended up doing the print nationwide.
Well, once they back in the golden age, they would have like million print runs all the time.
They would like this book right here.
Action 1 was a million print.
They printed a million of these.
Yeah.
And it's hard to think like a million Captain America 1s.
So
why is it worth anything?
Yeah, it should be worth nothing.
It should be common.
Yeah,
but,
But the number that survived.
That's different, right? This was during the war, the paper drives, and so many different aspects that kind of brought that number down to, I think, around, it was like 150, 170.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And, that's a far cry from a million, right? And whereas this book, they literally only a few copies exist, from anywhere from 7 to 9, they say. So crazy. It's very interesting. Very rare piece of history.
Here, show the back, too, just because...
Oh, yes, sure.
People aren't going to see this book ever. I might as well show the whole book.
Yeah, so the back's kind of interesting, too. There's like this kind of weird conspiracy theory floating around that this character here could be Submariner, if that's really the first appearance of him on the cover or on the back of a cover. Kind of looks like him, but
yeah, it does.
What kind of adds to it? It does, yeah. He does have that kind of face, but it could also be a mobster. But then what adds to it is that guess who did the art on the back cover? W.B. Everett. So Bill Everett. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty interesting.
It does, like just the way his face is done.
Yeah, it looks almost like he has the pointy ears, those eyebrows.
And the way just the way the nose.
It does kind of look like that, but yeah, this is a book that probably will never see in your life. And
what I always thought was kind of cool about it is the fact that it's meant to be in the movies, like it's supposed to, and it's a movie kind of like
movie cover. Yeah, it's like related to it. It's really cool.
Yeah, really.
I mean, like. Obviously, it's a very goofy cover. It's not a superhero cover.
Yeah, it's not what you would expect.
No, it's not. But I mean, I think honestly, it adds to like the mystique of it all. So it's kind of interesting. I'm kind of
curious what he was actually writing.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It says something now is probably something now playing or something like that.
He's got an R and an S. So
yeah,
we don't
like
know.
This.
I almost feel like it's like
the R fell out maybe.
Wheel of Fortune kind of thing.
Yeah,
where they
guess the cover. Yeah, that'll be cool. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, if Bill Everett was alive, we could ask him to find out what was going on if he remembered, but it's just a forgotten piece of comic history. And what's really interesting is that the comic world, the whole community, didn't know this existed until this date. Until this date came up and it sold. Because before
when was that? Like, that was pretty recent, like in the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah,
right?
Probably the last 30 years or so, yeah. But before that, like, they thought Marvel 1 was the first appearance, so you can imagine all those guys had Marvel 1 punching the air like, no! But it's a very, very cool piece of history that almost never comes up, and a lot of people don't even know about it, even hardcore Golden Age guys.
Yeah, I actually told people, like, somebody was asking me what Grail book would you want?
That's what you said,
I said that one because, it's much rarer. You just don't see
it's just, even if you have the money,
Yeah.
buy an action one or spend hundreds of thousands, $1 million doesn't mean you're going to get this book because it's
Well, it just doesn't exist.
It doesn't, and the people who have it have bought it years ago and they
are not
keep it. They're not selling it.
Yeah,
It's not a book that you buy and sell or trade. It's a book that if you want it, you're going after. You keep it, and you Can
I say some of the things the guy sacrificed to get this book? Can I say?
No, he doesn't want. It was a lot.
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
It was more than just comics.
He had to give up, a few limbs, a couple kidneys.
A few organs, stuff like that. It wasn't easy, but I mean, for someone who's a Submariner fan, I mean, there's not enough copies out there just to meet everyone's expectation like by a mile. So it's incredible to actually even hold one. So it's really cool to see one in person.
Really cool. Really cool.
It's very fascinating. So that's probably the most interesting book, even though that I brought a Cap 1 and some other cool stuff.
So this might be the last time you see Streyflexin. He might be something might happen to him. And...
Oh no! I'll disappear. This is going live, right? They'll be able to call 911, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a very, very cool book. So I'm glad to share that with you guys today.
And you have one more thing to show.
Oh, I do actually. Yes.
Yeah, one more thing. One more surprise little thing. I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, I didn't want to reveal it yet to him, but
it's a black book.
Yeah. So this is kind of interesting. So this is a little story time. We'll talk about it. So this took me like 6 to 8 months to get. Okay. You're like, what the hell's in here?
Yeah.
So a long time ago, like a year ago, I think someone posted on Facebook. They posted that they had like an AF-15 in a bound volume or something, and I was super interested.
Okay.
And it was like, what's the story behind this? And the guy was in Vietnam, or I was like, what the hell's going on? I was like, how did they?
A lot of people did that, where they would get some collection and then they would bind it into a book.
Right. They bind it into a book, but as I started digging deeper and deeper into the story, it started getting really, really more interesting.
Okay.
So what happened was during the Vietnam War, before that, the soldiers came down, and it's like, I think AF-15 came out in like 62, right? August 62.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And like, I think a year or a few months after, they actually went to Vietnam, and they brought a lot of the comics with them. Mm-hmm. So what happened was one of the soldiers, he either they traded with the kids, or they gifted it to the kids, or they sold it for a few pennies to these Vietnamese kids, these comic books. Oh, wow. And this kid, and I have a photo of him in Vietnam with comics, reading them in like the 60s. He kept it all these years. And then when the war was over, they wanted them to destroy all the American stuff, all American propaganda, anything that the Americans. So he had to hide it. So he hid it in this book here. Oh, wow. It's going to be a little bit hard to show on camera, but it's got a bunch of random silver, even bronze books in here. But the most interesting, see, that's a little bit of a later one, is out of all the books that he had, there's a freaking AF-15 in there. Wow. Unbelievable. Amazing Fantasy 15 from Vietnam. Yeah, it's kind of hard to show on the camera.
But that is so funny. Like, isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's super cool. It's complete. All the pages are there. So it's the full Spider-Man story. And a Vietnamese soldier,
you can tell
American
you love
soldiers brought it
these
down.
Books because they've been well read.
Yeah, definitely well-read books. But it's just very fascinating to know the history behind this specific book that was brought over during the war. There's the classic splash page right there.
So this is almost like a pedigree book, like the Vietnam.
I guess the Vietnam collection or something like that. But it's really fascinating, and just getting the book was a whole hassle in and of itself. Because, there's no PayPal there, there's no protection there. How am I going to buy it? How is he going to send it?
Exactly.
What if it gets stuck in customs? They might take it.
So this was from Vietnam that you bought it?
Yeah. So I had to get a family friend whose mother was
how did you even find out about this?
This guy, believe it or not, Facebook. He posted it on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
Posted on Facebook, and I reached out, sent him an email, and someone bought it. Someone tried to buy it apparently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there was something wrong with the fees, or the guy couldn't get it picked up. He paid some company, and it didn't work out.
Oh, okay.
So it didn't work out for him, and I already gave up. I'm like, I'm not gonna get this book from Vietnam. Like,
I might get. Pages quality is pretty good.
It's not bad. It's not bad. I was like, oh, maybe I'll get scammed, or maybe I don't know, I'll lose my money, or something will happen. But I found out a family friend had her mother coming back from Vietnam. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, if I give you money, could you meet up with this guy? And then you had to take like a train for hours to meet up with the guy and then give them all this money, and I was able to buy it.
Page right here, by the way.
Yep.
I saw somebody just selling that, like
that page alone.
Bought that page alone. I think they paid $1,000 or $2,000 just for that one page.
That's incredible, because it's a Silver Age book, where it's like, I remember when Batman 1, Captain America 1, you could buy for $1,000 a page. So for AF-15, this one just got a little.
Well, because it has Spider-Man on it.
I think that's important. I mean, all these pages are a classic. My favorite page Here's a little tear. Just have to be careful. It's kind of hard doing this with one hand.
Yeah, yeah.
This is my favorite page. So this is the last page of the AF-15 story.
And it looks really sad.
Yeah, we unmask the robber, and yeah, you can see it at the last panel here. It's with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah,
So
I know that's to me the key, most famous scene for Spider-Man.
Probably, yeah.
That or getting bitten by the spider. You know, those two things.
But everyone knows that quote, even if you like superhero movies or not.
It's something quoted even if you're not a comic book fan.
Right, right. They just know it. And it's got all the, because a lot of times it's missing like some of this other stories, but it's got it all here. It's
which
complete.
Most people don't realize this about AF-15. He was not going to be a character that they were going to do something with.
No, I mean, it's an amazing, like, fantasy. It's
it was
random series.
Yeah, and it was like, I think it's 8 pages. It's his story.
Yeah, it's just the
first
story.
And then the rest of the book is, like, amazing fantasy.
Yeah, just random tales, saucer tales, weird, kind of strange stories. And, I mean, the first few issues, it was, like, amazing adult fantasy. And those were all just random pre-code monster kind of pre-hero type, right?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, the story goes, I mean, there's tons of videos on this online. I'm not probably the best one to explain it, but I mean, Stan really wanted to try it out. It's the last issue, and they're like, okay, fine, go for it. Try it out. Try this spider bug. No one's going to like this. Yeah, no one's going to like this bug thing, you know? It turned out to be one of their biggest hits. And, because of AF-15 blowing up, and then it really was the biggest kind of impact on the Silver Age. I mean, people loved it. Yeah. He had his own series.
It was one of the, that Fantastic Four #1 and Spider-Man really were the thing that made
They were, and before that, what really inspired this was Showcase 4, so the start of the Silver Age. So that's when superheroes kind of came back in a big way in a more, say, scientific, instead of like these weird random occurrences or miracles or God, there was more science during that era. So, and that even part of Spider-Man's Peter Parker's origin story has a lot of science.
Yeah, they like the sciencey stuff.
They do. So Showcase 4 did really well. And then Brave and the Bold came out, and then Marvel kind of copied that with AF-15, and then Fantastic Four. So it's kind of interesting. That was kind of the start of it all, and then this just took it off. The Spider-Man just people couldn't get enough.
So is this a PC book for you?
Yeah, I mean, I probably will hold on to it. It's just, it's so important. I just think it has to stay together.
Well, it has a lot of cool.
It does. It has a lot of history. You know, the fact that you could trace this down to like an American soldier bringing it down and
and you know that if you ever go to Vietnam, nobody's going to confiscate it because you can hide it.
Yeah, there you go. It's hidden in the Bible there. You were wondering what it is. It's like I'll bring the first edition of the Bible or something.
Yeah, it looked like a Bible. It looked kind of
it's really conspicuous, but it was an interesting find, and I think if I ever end up letting it go, it just has to. I want it to be like kind of together. I want the story to survive and live on because it's
it's like
it's super fascinating.
It'd be a shame if they
it would be. I mean, like
but it is one of those ones that they would probably do. That.
It's for value reasons, right? To try to make more money, but it's an interesting book. It's an interesting story. I was actually going to get the guy to write a whole letter in Vietnamese
that'd be cool.
about it to just kind of go with it. So
that'd be really awesome.
Yeah, so it's really fascinating.
Get him to do that.
Yeah, I will. I'll post it up on my Instagram when I do that. So
that'd be really cool.
So people get able to see that. So
what things what are you chasing right now? What you got pretty much I don't know what else you can buy.
Yeah.
What are you chasing? What's your big book?
I think for me, I'm pretty happy and pretty content with the. I know that's hard to say. I mean, we always want something. There's always stuff that I'm chasing, but I'm really I've finally got to a point where I really appreciate my collection. I'm really happy with a lot of the books that I have, and I think the next kind of big book I'd want is a Marvel one. That's one that I've never owned. Yeah, that's a cool book. And that's a really cool book, and it would go well with the Cap one. But I just like
the fact that he's melting through the wall. I like
it's a great cover.
Any of those kind of melting through the wall things.
It's a great cover, and the more I looked into the history of Marvel one, the more I got really interested about the book, like the print run, and even the cover looks different, right? It looks a bit different than most of the Golden Age covers because they actually use different color plates to make that book. So they use more of a pulp color palette to make the book. So it's really interesting. Okay. And it's Frank R. Paul cover, which is he's a pulp artist. So it's just.
I like also that there's a first and second print of it.
Yeah.
And I heard that the second print is maybe the first comic second print.
It really could be. I wonder.
There might be something earlier, but I'm not sure.
I mean, it's 1939, right?
It's pretty early.
Yeah, they didn't. I can't imagine them making many second
The only thing
prints.
I could think of that would maybe be something earlier would be like if they did some kind of Action 1.
Yeah,
printings of Action 1.
It might not be because, believe it or not, a lot of people don't even know this. The Marvel October, November, some people know, but then this is like even more obscure. But Batman 1 and Superman 1 apparently had multiple printings.
Yeah.
So Batman 1, I know for sure there's where it says NO, .1, and there's somewhere just NO1.
Oh,
So there's 2 printings on that, and then I
didn't
heard that
know,
there's
I didn't
also
know about that.
yeah, and then people don't even realize that it's such a small little thing, but there's 2 printings on Batman 1, and then there's apparently a few printings, maybe 2 or 3 on Superman 1. And if that's the case, that would probably beat the Marvel one.
Oh yeah, so those those are things. I'm a first print kind of guy. I would never want a second.
But
print.
here's the question. Right? So, is it a second print? Like,
I know,
like,
it's kind of weird.
Is it? I don't. Here's what I think about it, because it came out at the same time. Like Marvel, let's take Marvel 1 for example, because that one's like we have proof that there's a few.
Yeah,
printings.
because they have the dates.
They have dates, and they changed the dates. So, like, yes, did technically one start in the line, the other one came after? Yes, but they're both from 1939.
Yeah.
The first printing, it really was just locally, so it wasn't really everywhere. Most of them, I looked at the last 30 scans of Marvel 1, and like 2 of them were the first printing, like the October copy.
Yeah, it's really rare.
Super scarce, because
does it go for more because it is?
I think one hasn't come up in a while to like an October print.
Yeah,
like the first print hasn't come up in a while to compare.
It's October and November, right?
Yes, October, November. But I believe it definitely would. It would get a premium, but again, I don't think it would take away from. I mean, even the regular Marvel one, like it still sells for hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. So I don't think it would take away from the book, but it would be cool. It would be like a premium. It would be like, a pedigree collection. No, necessarily like
something a little extra.
Yeah,
a little
it's
extra
like,
special. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit more special. But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's like? Do you consider it a second print?
I
consider
from
1939
because I'm such a absolutist. I would go say it's a second print.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'd be like, oh, who wants this trash?
Mail it to me. You don't need that second print. You'll find a first print one day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's a debate that's roared obviously between collectors. It was like, is it really a first or is it really a second? I mean, they are different printings. There's no doubt about it. They're different printings. But I think when it comes to collecting this, it's like it's still from the kind of like the same era, the same period. I mean, they were a month apart. Whereas like the Golden Record reprint and like the ASM one, those are 2 different things. And the one was given a record company, or even the modern reprints. Those are
those are
completely
obvious.
different. Yeah,
it's a second print.
But I think for Marvel 1, it's cooler, and I think it's really awesome to get an October copy because of the history behind it. But I mean, I'm good with
I could see it being
copy.
one of those things later on.
Yeah,
that will definitely get recognized
as the hobby matures more and more. I think for sure, and
especially with if you're spending millions of dollars.
Yeah,
and those books are in that kind of
they can get in that range for
6-figure plus range. They're gonna want that a little extra thing.
Yeah, I mean the buyers. I mean that's why people pay a lot of money for 9.8s and 9.9s because they want the best of the best of the best, right?
What you see is even with like copies of 9.6s, like
right,
where one presents slightly better than the other.
Right.
And it will command a premium. You know what I mean? Like, that
well, even in cards too, like when there's like the PSA 10, if a PSA 10 that's actually a PSA 10 and flawless would go for more than a PSA 10 that has a little nick on the corner.
Yeah.
So people do buy the grade, but they also buy the book or the card or whatever the collectible that's encased
something
is.
To distinguish my book.
Right.
Slightly better than your book.
Right. So I mean, presentation's a big thing. Like 9.8 Hulk 181s. If one had the like a little bit of miswrap, you could see the white of the spine.
Yeah.
It would probably sell for less than one that.
And it's also the other one is like what's it called? The one with Iron Man. Suspense.
Oh, Tales Suspense 39. Yeah. So it was like the double quotes and the blue under the table.
Yeah. Those things, people, little things make the price go a little different.
I think it's I don't know. I think it's a little bit silly for like in low grades.
But
in low grades. In low grades. But when you get to the high grades and people want the best of the best, then yeah, I mean, they want the perfect centering because what's interesting about comics and that's different than cards is that they don't like centering doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all if it's miswrapped. The grade can still get a 90.
Yep.
But for the cards, it's like centering is actually part of the grade.
Well, yeah, I've seen that. I'm not a big card collector.
No, I'm not either.
But I do know
it's
some
interesting
of those
that they view it differently.
Yeah.
And when I first found out that, I was like, wait, what? Like that's part of the grade? Like in comics, that's like a printing error or miswrap. Like it doesn't matter. It's just a technical grade. So
yeah.
I think it matters in the higher level of it. But I mean, if you're a guy that just wants to own a Tales 39. Don't be that person that you're trying to get a 102. Don't be like, oh, I got to find the double quotes. It's like, get with what you can, get a good deal, get what comes up, and be happy with that. I mean, because it's just cool to own these books in any condition, really, for a lot of them, especially as they get more expensive, right? It's hard to get. It's harder to be picky with them. If it's a modern book, fine, stick to 9.8. But the older stuff, kind of get what you can and get what you like.
A lot of these books,
yeah.
You maybe only have one chance to get it, so get what you can.
Yeah, I mean the biggest regrets, I don't know if it's the same for you, but for me it's not the books that I bought, it's the books that I didn't buy. And I think that's
Yeah.
when you're in it for a while, you realize that it's mostly
what I missed.
it's what you missed,
yeah,
right? It's not what you actually purchased. So
yeah, I missed the motion picture funny side. So,
yeah.
but
That's
so
a tough one.
where can people find you, and what are you up to? I should
So
say.
so I'm on Instagram under Streyflexin, so most people would know me from there.
And I will put a link in the description to his Instagram, so
Thank you.
definitely check him out.
Appreciate it. I do kind of want to jump in the YouTube realm a
Yeah,
bit,
you
so I
gotta
was
do
thinking
YouTube.
about it.
You
got
know,
some cool stuff that I
probably
can
do
show
better
off
than
now.
me. You know.
No, I mean you have a great setup. You bring in great guests. I love your channel. It's awesome. So I just think it'll be kind of fun to show, because I got other stuff that's not even comic related. Like I got animation art, Disney art, comic art.
Love that stuff.
Yeah, like other interesting, quirky things.
I think you'd do well. I think
it'll be cool to show off different.
And I'll pitch your channel. I'll promote you. We'll do some.
We'll do some collabs.
Come to Ottawa, and we'll do some collabs.
Yeah, we'll do some collabs in Ottawa. It'll be fun. But I just staying active in the community. I'll be at most of the major conventions. So there's some of the big ones coming up. There's Terry's show, California, CalCon. There's the Summit, and then obviously C2E2 Baltimore Heroes Convention. Those are all some of the best shows. People ask me a lot, what shows are good to fly it.
So
to.
you fly?
Yeah, I fly to all the shows,
wow.
and that's how I'm able to find a lot of these books. I fly around, I spend all my time.
I try to stay local, so I haven't really I buy through Heritage.
Which is honestly a lot of times the online is better than the shows, but if you're able to go to a real American show, they're so good.
You can
find some cool stuff.
I always found that if you can kind of meet some of these people in person, you can get better deals. Of course. And you can make that kind of a little bit more negotiation.
Yeah, you get more of a connection, and it's always fun to buy these books in person. Nowadays it's mostly online, and that's okay. But being able to go there in person and close the deal, it's a lot more exhilarating, and fun. And you never know what you'll find. You walk into shows and one of these books might be there. So it's one of those things where they might not be online. So there's some dealers that literally only do the shows, which is
I know a few of them like that.
Yeah, they won't. I message them and they're like, "No, I'll just be at the show. They'll see me next year." I'm like, "Can you ship it?" "No, I'll just be at the show." No. They just want to do.
It's really weird that they won't even ship it.
No, they won't.
They only deal through the shows.
Some people just like doing that.
Yeah, I know a few like that.
So you got to go to the shows and then buy what they have.
Fortunately, they were always coming to at least Toronto Comic Con.
Right.
So that was one good thing.
Yeah,
I
so
could actually see them
there.
But so again, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for being my first in-person interview. It was kind of cool.
A lot of fun. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
So again, check out Streyflexin on Instagram. I will link it into the description. Again, thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Take care, guys.